They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now the young white girl comes along and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along. The resentment is understandable, but it's not about Caitlin Clark. It's about what she represents. My point is, grow up.
The WNBA was on the brink of an unprecedented era, pulled from decades of obscurity and into the mainstream spotlight by a single electrifying force. For the first time in its history, the league was not just gaining traction, it was exploding, shattering viewership records, filling arenas, and attracting a level of attention once thought unimaginable. Then, in an instant, a sudden shocking blow threatened to unravel it all, exposing a deep-seated rot that many had chosen to ignore, and revealing the fragile foundations upon which this sudden surge was built. This isn't just the story of an injury, it's the untold account of how a league's own curious resistance, internal jealousies, and unchecked neglect might have led to its biggest crisis, and the one lone voice screaming the uncomfortable truth while everyone else whispered, pretending everything was fine. Get ready, because the full scope of this sports spectacle and its potential undoing is far more dramatic than you could ever imagine.
The Indiana Fever announced that star Caitlin Clark will be out at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain. Clark reported some pain in her leg Saturday after the team's loss to the New York Liberty. She subsequently underwent an MRI and was diagnosed with the strain on Monday.
Picture this, a league once relegated to niche sports channels and half-empty stadiums, suddenly dominating primetime headlines, securing lucrative new deals, and drawing millions of fresh eyeballs. This wasn't magic, it was a phenomenon named Caitlin Clark. Her arrival wasn't just another draft pick, not merely a talented rookie joining the ranks. It was a seismic shift, a cultural event that irrevocably rewrote the rules of engagement for women's sports. From the moment she stepped onto a WNBA court, she transcended the game itself. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was a one-woman economic engine, firing on all cylinders, igniting a financial boom the league had never dared to dream of. Suddenly, teams across the league were enjoying perks previously thought impossible, like chartered flights, a luxury many had only dreamed of, all because of the unprecedented interest she alone generated. Ratings didn't just inch up, they skyrocketed, reaching heights that made even major men's sports leagues raise an eyebrow in disbelief.
Clark was the WNBA's Rookie of the Year last season and a first-team All-WNBA selection. So far, she's averaging 19 points and a league-leading 9.3 assists through 4 games this season. I could give a damn about that last part. I don't care about her leading the league in assists. I don't care about the points that she's averaging because I already know that the young lady can ball. She is special. What I'm interested in is what somebody tweeted me and asked about earlier today that I want to show you right now.
Every single game the Indiana Fever played, whether at home or on the road, became a must-see event, with crowds swelling by percentages that defy logical explanation. Merchandise sales, once a quiet trickle, transformed into a raging torrent, with her iconic jersey alone outselling entire teams combined, instantly becoming a symbol of this new, vibrant era. This wasn't just hype, it was a quiet, undeniable revolution, a brutal, beautiful demonstration that a singular, generational talent could single-handedly elevate an entire enterprise. But amidst this shimmering new surface, beneath the roaring crowds and flashing cameras, an insidious undercurrent of resentment was already brewing, threatening to spoil the golden moment.
Unfortunately, though, the celebration in the WNBA, it was cut short yesterday afternoon as WNBA players learned the harsh lesson: be careful what you wish for. Headline at the New York Post: Caitlin Clark sidelined with Indiana Felines announcing shock injury. Keyword: shock. This injury was shocking, but Not for reasons that you may think.
For all the newfound glory, for every record shattered and every new fan drawn in by Clark's magnetic pull, a darker, far more uncomfortable truth began to surface. Not everyone was cheering. In fact, a palpable, thinly veiled animosity emerged, particularly from some corners of the league's established old guard. You had players and even former stars who seemed to view Clark's stratospheric rise not as a shared victory that benefited them all, but as a deeply personal slight, a theft of attention they believed was rightfully theirs. Figures like Angel Reese, for instance, frequently found herself in on-court moments that highlighted a palpable tension, her aggressive actions sometimes interpreted by onlookers as a direct challenge to Clark's growing spotlight. Then there was Cheryl Swoops, a bona fide legend whose comments about Clark's collegiate records and professional readiness struck many as a bizarre, almost desperate attempt to diminish her achievements. A curious dismissal from someone who should have been the first to celebrate the league's newfound unprecedented relevancy.
Fanatics also reported a 100% increase in sales for WNBA specific merchandise. It started with Caitlin Clark. And so now that we know all of this, and we've known that for months, now we get to turn around and look and see what exactly is it that the league will do knowing that she's out for the next 2 weeks. I'm not saying I know for sure what's going to happen, but I have an idea.
This man didn't just speak up. He held court like a man who'd been waiting to dunk on the league's ineptitude for months.
This wasn't merely competitive fire, it felt like a deep-seated simmering resentment, a jealousy rooted in a strange delusion. They saw a young, unblemished star instantly showered with praise and attention that, in their minds, was earned only through years of unseen struggle and dedication by others. They seemed to willfully ignore the irrefutable fact that this newcomer was the singular reason for chartered flights, the singular reason for soaring ratings, the singular reason for the sudden influx of serious life-changing dollars into their very ecosystem. The argument, unspoken but clear, boiled down to, we were here first, toiling in obscurity. Why are they paying attention now, just because she arrived? It was an understandable human reaction, perhaps. The sting of overlooked effort, but one that was dangerously misdirected and threatened to devour the very moment the WNBA had longed for, setting the stage for an inevitable collision.
Thanks to Clark, Indiana led the league in attendance both at home and on the road. The Fever averaged 17,035 fans at home and over 15,000 on the road. 4 teams moved home games to bigger arenas when Indiana came to town to accommodate more fans. That's about Caitlin Clark. How do we know this? Attendance for the entire league was up nearly 50% last year. According to data from across the timeline, and Indiana led all teams with an average attendance of 17,035. That was up 319% from.
With the league's greatest opportunity knocking and an undeniable star illuminating its path, where was the WNBA's leadership amidst this brewing storm of success and resentment? Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the league seem to adopt a baffling, almost self-sabotaging strategy: downplay the undeniable. While the numbers screamed Caitlin Clark with a force that could not be ignored, the official narrative often pivoted to generic platitudes about the rising tide lifting all boats, or the collective effort of all players. Instead of launching a full-scale marketing blitz around their singular, undeniable star, a move any other forward-thinking professional sports league would execute without hesitation, the WNBA offered press releases so bland and generic they felt like they could have been auto-generated.
We'll find out. We don't know yet, but I'm going to be really interested in seeing, Molly, what kind of effect this has on the WNBA's ratings, because if for some reason there is a precipitous drop-off, then everybody needs to stand down and recognize the fact that the speculation or the assertions and assumptions about her being the golden goose is validated.
It was as if they were inexplicably afraid to acknowledge, to truly celebrate the simple fact that one player was doing more for the brand's global recognition and financial health than a decade of combined effort from everyone else. This curious, baffling reluctance to lean into their biggest asset, to unequivocally celebrate the magnetic force pulling them into the mainstream, created a glaring strategic void. It left Clark not only physically vulnerable to the brutal demands of the professional game, but also, perhaps more critically, quickly exposed to the festering undercurrent of jealousy and misdirected anger that was becoming increasingly visible and volatile on the court. This passive approach was a ticking time bomb, allowing the very foundation of their newfound success to be quietly undermined.
Jealous teammate.
You asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
That insidious vulnerability quickly escalated into a startling and frankly disturbing pattern of physical targeting on the court. Watch the game footage, the raw, unedited moments captured in crystal clarity, and you'll see it. The hard fouls that went beyond aggressive play, the off-ball shoves, the deliberate bumps and body checks that seemed to veer dangerously into the territory of borderline assaults. Clark, despite being universally recognized as the league's most valuable new commodity, the very engine driving its sudden surge, was treated less like a cherished, protected asset and more like a human crash test dummy. She was slammed to the ground, hacked, elbowed, and battered night after night. Yet the WNBA's response was a collective shrug, a dismissive part of the game mentality. Penalties were minimal, if given at all, and the message sent seemed clear. This aggressive, often reckless physicality against their biggest draw was tacitly approved, or at the very least tolerated.
I noticed when you're asking about Caitlin a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
This wasn't merely bad luck or the unfortunate reality of contact sports. It was a glaring display of negligence. When a league lets its most magnetic, most profitable player endure relentless physical battering with minimal consequences, it's not an accident when something inevitably breaks. The sheer volume and intensity of hits Clark absorbed this season wouldn't look out of place in an NFL highlight reel, yet the WNBA seemed content to stand by, observing a slow-motion collision course. The question wasn't if she would get hurt, but when and who ultimately would be held accountable for the league's apparent devastating failure to protect its golden goose.
Became the first rookie with at least 25 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds in a playoff game. That was Caitlin Clark. Became the fourth different rookie to play all 40 minutes in a playoff game. That was her. I'm looking at other things. 6 different league television partners. This is last year. This is last season, because this is Caitlin Clark that we're talking about. 6 different league television partners set viewership records that year, her rookie year, for its highest viewed WNBA game. Do you know every one of those games included the Indiana Fever?
The when arrived with a chilling, stomach-dropping suddenness. Just when it seemed the WNBA was finally getting its act together, finally ready to ride the Caitlin Clark rocket ship to unprecedented sports relevance and serious life-altering dollars, they went ahead and tripped spectacularly over their own shoelaces. The Indiana Fever delivered the shocking news. Their singular star, Caitlin Clark, would be sidelined for at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain. Clark had reported pain after a recent, particularly physical game. An MRI confirmed the strain, and in an instant, basketball fans worldwide plunged into a collective meltdown. Talk shows spiraled into furious debates, social media erupted, and then inevitably there was Stephen A. Smith. He didn't just comment, he went DEFCON 1, practically levitating from sheer unadulterated outrage. This wasn't a minor tweak, a standard injury that happens in every sport. This was a devastating body blow to a league struggling to find its footing, a crisis that threatened to derail everything it had recently gained.
Rising tide lifts all boats. And if this is the magnetic traction that draws viewers to the WNBA, and her absence over the next 2 weeks to that court due to that quad strain is providing further evidence of that, then everybody needs to accept it, stand down, and ride that wave. I'm going to be really interested in seeing how the ratings are going to look without her over the next 2 weeks. Let's make sure we come back and ask me this exact same question after she's been gone for those 2 weeks.
Stephen A wasted no time, unleashing a torrent of fury, torching every bad take, every questionable decision, and every systemic failure that had led to this catastrophic moment. He shone an unsparing spotlight on the WNBA bullies, the league's passive commissioner Kathy Engelbert, and most especially the players like Angel Reese, who in his view still seemed to harbor the delusion that people watched for them too. The premature celebration within the WNBA, the quiet smugness of those who resented Clark's light, was cut brutally short. Players and executives alike were about to learn a harsh, undeniable lesson. Be profoundly careful what you wish for.
We know what she brings to the table. But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm. And they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here. And y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now the young white girl comes along and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along. The resentment is understandable, but it's not about Caitlin Clark. It's about what she represents. My point is, grow up.
Because the cold, hard numbers, as they always do, refuse to lie. And these numbers, stark and unforgiving, painted a picture of absolute catastrophic dependence. Before her injury, when Caitlin Clark was on the court, her games were pulling an astonishing average of 1.178 million viewers. When she's off the court, that number doesn't just drop, it plummets, crashing to a mere 394,000. That's not a decline, it's a terrifying plunge off a cliff, a 3 times crater in viewership, a gaping chasm that renders any argument about collective growth utterly moot. The reality is undeniable, and utterly brutal. Indiana, with Clark leading the charge, topped the entire league in attendance, consistently drawing over 17,000 fans at home and over 15,000 on the road, an astonishing 319% increase from the previous year, a testament to her singular draw.
Look, I think Stephen A is 100% correct on this. At the end of the day, you already see people actually saying, hey, I'm not watching for 2 weeks. I'm not tuning in for 2 weeks. And it's really bad news for the Mystics and the Sky because both of those teams moved those games to big arenas. So it's like now that she's not playing, what is that attendance going to look like? The viewership, right? The viewership is going to plummet. I already know because majority of the people that's watching the Indiana Fever wants to see Caitlin Clark. And sad to say it, a lot of them only want to see Caitlin Clark. They don't really care about the entire team.
4 entire teams even made the unprecedented decision to move their home games to larger, far more accommodating arenas, specifically to accommodate the insatiable Clark effect. Now, with her sidelined, those same arenas face the humiliating prospect of swathes of empty seats and tickets selling at half price, a stark visual representation of her absence. This isn't just about a star player being out for a few weeks, it's about the league's entire gravitational pull weakening, its newfound momentum bleeding out. The financial hit is immediate and profoundly brutal. Fanatics, the undisputed giant in sports merchandise, had reported an astounding 100% increase in WNBA specific sales, a surge that demonstrably began and flowed directly from Caitlin Clark's debut. Without her, sponsors are watching, networks are watching, and everyone knows what's coming next. A cold, hard dose of reality for a league that stubbornly, bafflingly refused to acknowledge, protect, and amplify its most valuable asset.
Everybody was moving Caitlin Clark games to bigger facilities because everyone was selling tickets. There were ratings. It was a ratings bonanza. Now with Caitlin Clark not playing, what do? Well, when you change your situs, guess what? You can't change it back.
Yep.
All
the tickets are literally half the price, and there are entire sections of the stadium that have not sold any tickets.
Amidst this spiraling chaos, this shocking realization, who, amongst all the dissembling and denial, has been the lone, consistent voice of reason, the true prophet of this unfolding drama? Stephen A. Smith. His current white-hot outrage isn't some sudden, unhinged outburst. It's the volcanic eruption of months of watching the WNBA systematically fumble every golden opportunity, squander every ounce of its newfound potential. He's seen players like Cheryl Swoops throwing more shade than a beach umbrella, acting as if Clark wasn't single-handedly dragging the entire league into the spotlight, as if her success was a personal affront. He's seen Angel Reese seemingly turn every on-court interaction into her personal audition for America's next jealous teammate, often at Clark's expense. And he's watched Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's entire Clark-related strategy boil down to a bland, disconnected, thanks for the ratings, I guess. Like finding a genie in a bottle and wishing for a slightly larger bottle.
2.2 million average viewers
tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark and the Fever take on the Liberty.
Peaking at 3.2 million viewers is crazy for the WNBA, even for the Fever.
Became the 6th most watched WNBA regular season or playoff game.
Now, with Clark sidelined, Stephen A is quite literally yelling, "I told you so," from the rooftops. And honestly, he has profoundly earned that right. He has consistently, relentlessly laid out the cold, hard, irrefutable facts. Attendance figures were soaring. Major television partners were setting unprecedented viewership records, and every single one of those record-shattering games featured the Indiana Fever, centered squarely around their star. His message has been crystal clear, a simple, powerful truth. If this is the magnetic traction that draws viewers to the WNBA, and her absence provides undeniable evidence of that, then everyone needs to stand down, accept it, and ride the wave. Translation, stop fighting it. Caitlin is the show. Either get on board and elevate her, or get left behind, sitting in half-empty arenas, wondering where the buzz, the money, and the momentum went. He has been the Cassandra figure, warning of the impending doom, and now the prophecy is unfolding in real time, right before our very eyes.
She came into the league last year with no break whatsoever between the college game and the pro game and did her thing. Ended up as an all-star, ended up being 4th in the league in MVP voting, was the clear winner for Rookie of the Year. No competition whatsoever in that regard when it was really all said and done. We know what she brings to the table. But people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm. And they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had.
The road ahead for the WNBA is not just challenging, it is treacherous, fraught with immediate and devastating long-term consequences. Clark isn't just missing some throwaway Tuesday night game against an obscure opponent. She's sitting out marquee matchups, the very games that were supposed to solidify the league's mainstream appeal. Her highly anticipated rematch with Angel Reese, gone. Multiple primetime national broadcasts, carefully orchestrated to showcase the league's new dynamism, kaput. The financial hit is immediate, brutal, and widely anticipated. This isn't just the Indiana Fever missing a star player. This is the WNBA losing its entire gravitational pull, watching its newfound momentum dissipate into thin air. Clark isn't just putting up points or delivering dazzling passes. She's the singular, undeniable reason people are actually showing up to the arena, turning on their TVs, and buying those once ignored, now overpriced jerseys. Take her out of the equation, and suddenly the Indiana Fever looks disturbingly like every other team, desperately trying to stay relevant, hoping anyone will still care.
Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. And in her case, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it.
Games that were enthusiastically moved to larger venues, anticipating sellouts, now face the humiliating prospect of half-empty stands, a silent monument to the league's short-sightedness. But what truly fuels the collective frustration, what truly has the biggest voices fuming, is that this entire crisis was completely avoidable. Injuries happen in sports, sure, but when a league allows its most valuable player to be systematically slammed, hacked, elbowed, and subjected to borderline assaults every single night with utterly minimal consequences, that's not an accident. That's gross negligence. Clark's massive, dedicated fan base is already furious, many openly pledging to boycott games until she returns. Social media platforms are overflowing with posts from fans declaring they're not watching another second of WNBA basketball until Clark is back on the court.
You literally cannot make this up. When she's not playing, ticket prices, merchandise sales plummet. Viewership declines when she is not suited up in uniform. The numbers do not lie, guys. Caitlin Clark is the biggest box office attraction in the WNBA, period. Facts over feeling.
And who can possibly blame them? If you started watching because of Caitlin Clark, if she was the singular reason you invested your time and attention, why would you stick around when she's not there? Watching a WNBA game without Clark is like ordering a gourmet pizza and getting handed a lukewarm, generic salad. The excitement is gone. The unique flavor's gone. The very thing that made it special, that transformed it from a niche product to must-see TV, simply isn't there anymore.
Became the first rookie with at least 25 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds in a playoff game. That was Caitlin Clark. Became the 4th different rookie to play all 40 minutes in a playoff game. That was her. I'm looking at other things. 6 different league television partners. This is last year. This is last season, because this is the Caitlin Clark that we're talking about. 6 different league television partners set viewership records that year, her rookie year, for its highest viewed WNBA game. Do you know every one of those games included the Indiana Fever?
So where does the WNBA stand now, teetering on the precipice of its greatest opportunity and its gravest self-inflicted wound? The cold, hard truth remains. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player, she is the WNBA's undeniable lifeline, the golden goose they so casually dismissed, the single force capable of bridging its struggling past with an explosive mainstream future. This isn't merely about a twisted ankle or a pulled muscle, it's about whether the league is intelligent enough, agile enough, and self-aware enough to recognize and nurture a once-in-a-generation star before it's tragically too late. Stephen A. Smith understands this. He sees what the WNBA leadership, blinded by internal politics and misplaced pride, refuses to admit that Clark is the absolute linchpin. Without her, they're right back to begging networks for airtime, hoping someone shows up to games, and clinging to outdated narratives. Clark's not just a player, she's a walking marketing campaign, a highlight reel in sneakers, a franchise in human form, and now she's out. The bridge she built between women's basketball and the mainstream is temporarily closed for repairs. The WNBA had lightning in a bottle. Caitlin Clark was that lightning, and now that she's sidelined, the storm's not just rolling in, it's here. The next few weeks won't just prove Stephen A. right, they will, in no uncertain terms, define what kind of league the WNBA truly wants to be. Will it be one that protects, elevates, and embraces its brightest stars, riding the wave of unprecedented popularity? Or will it remain stuck in old, self-defeating patterns, watching its moment, perhaps its only chance at global relevance, slip away, leaving it to walk back into the shadows while the game it claims to cherish suffers the ultimate self-inflicted blow? The choice and the consequences are now painfully clear.